Okay, so now let's continue on with Kapitel 2. We've come to the last unit in Kapitel 2, Kapitel 2.5, die Zahlen, the numbers. Now it will start to make more sense when I say Kapitel 2.5 because we're getting our numbers in this unit. So we'll go over the exercises from the end of the last unit first. So we have Nummer 1, Warum antwortest du nicht? Which I translated as why do you not answer or why are you not answering? Either one is fine. They would just have different contexts, right? Imagine if someone said, my mom calls me every day at 2 and I don't answer. And then they would say, why do you not answer? Because it happens regularly. It's present tense, but it just sounds right. Why do you not answer? It happens all the time. And then imagine you look at your phone and you're like, oh, my mom's calling me right now. And the person says, why are you not answering, right? So either way would work depending on the context. And then we've got an irregular verb ending, only slightly irregular. It's got an extra I on there, antwortest. Warum antwortest du nicht? Yeah, there's that extra I. Okay, Nummer 2. Sitzt Frau Vogel oft im Park? Which is, does Mrs. Vogel often sit in the park? And because we have oft meaning often, it sounds better to just have the regular present tense in English instead of the progressive because it implies that it happens over and over. So, Nummer 3. Maria findet die Musik toll, which is like Maria finds the music great, or that's it. It works in English, like people understand, but it does sound a little weird. It sounds a little archaic. But then Maria thinks the music is great is a slightly more natural translation. So either way is fine. But of course, a more literal translation is with findet, with finds, right? So of course, we're noting this interesting ending here. Normally, you would only add a T to the stem for he, she, it. Maria is like sie for she. But now we add an ET. Yeah. Nummer 4. Warum tanzt ihr nicht? Which is, why do y'all not dance? Or why are y'all not dancing? Warum tanzt ihr nicht? Depending on context, you can do either of those verb tenses. And then Nummer 5. Jessica arbeitet am Montag. We've got that extra E on the ending there. And then you could do either Jessica works on Monday or she is working and going to work on Monday. Either way. Nummer 6. Wann reist du nach Spanien? When are you traveling to Spain? When do you travel? When are you traveling? When are you going to travel? Any of those are fine, depending on what sounds most natural. So then we have some little dialogues. Frau Ziegler says, Du, Robert, warum stehst du hier und machst nichts? She says, hey, Robert. Du means you, of course, but it's like saying, hey, you, or just hey. Hey, du Robert, why are you standing here and doing nothing? Warum stehst du hier? So because it's like happening in the moment, why do you stand here versus why are you standing here? It just sounds more natural with the progressive in English. But in the German, it's just the regular present tense. Du machst nichts, you do nothing. Why are you doing nothing? And then Robert says, warum fragst du? Which is why do you ask or why are you asking? I think those sound equally natural for me in English. Why do you ask? Why are you asking? Those both sound pretty good. Vater und ich arbeiten im Garten, which is father and I are working in the garden. Could also be yard, depending on how pretty it is. But Garten, there's no separate word for yard, it's just Garten. So there's a Hof, which is like a courtyard. I guess there's that as well. But Garten is what would you call like a front yard, backyard. Okay, so there's arbeiten. It's just the verb arbeiten, but nothing too interesting going on there. Robert says, Ich glaube, ihr arbeitet zu viel. I think, or I believe. Ich glaube, I believe, or I think. Ihr arbeitet zu viel. I think y'all work too much. And so I put this into like the regular present tense in English because I think he's making a general statement about y'all work too much, like as that's a character flaw of yours. So he's not like right now you're working too much, but like you always work too much. And then Frau Ziegler says, Und du arbeitest zu wenig. And you work too little. Yeah. Yeah, and you are working too little. I don't know. It could be the progressive, but I feel like the regular present tense is better here. Okay. Sabina says, Ich heiße Sabina. Wie heißt du? Very first day of German type of sentence, right? My name is Sabina. What's your name? Or I am called Sabina. What are you called? How are you called, actually? Yeah. So, Thomas says, Ich heiße Thomas. Wie findest du die Band? So, this is another one of those, oh, how do you find the band? But a more natural translation might be, what do you think of the band? Yeah. I accidentally capitalized band in English. If you do German for long enough, you will start capitalizing your nouns in English as well. It's pretty fun. Okay, Sabina says, die Band spielt sehr gut. Tanzt du? So, the band is playing very well. The band plays very well. I like the is playing a little better. And then when she says, tanzt du, this really does change the meaning, right? She says, do you dance? And the context is they're not dancing right now. They're just talking. And she's trying to find out if he dances in general. So maybe he wants to dance right now. So if he said, are you dancing? He'd be like, no, I'm not dancing. I'm standing here talking to you. So, but she says, do you dance? Tanzt du? And then he replies, of course, klar, komm, wir tanzen. And then wir tanzen, of course, is just the present tense, like we dance or we are dancing, but obviously they're not dancing right at the moment. But this is how you can sometimes translate the present as the near future. We'll dance, or maybe even let's dance. Yeah. So then we have Frau Ziegler is talking to her neighbor, Frau Berg. So Frau Ziegler says, Guten Tag, Frau Berg. Es ist ja kalt. Good day, or even just hello. Mrs. Berg. It is really cold. Es ist ja kalt. Ja, it's just to emphasize. Es ist ja kalt. And then Frau Berg says, ja, das Thermometer zeigt -10. Really, literally, it says the thermometer shows -10. A better translation is, yes, it says -10 on the thermometer, but you could take even more liberties and make it sound more natural by saying it is -10 or the temperature is -10 or something. I feel like English speakers don't talk about thermometers as much as Germans do. I don't know, but that's a common way to say it. Anyway, it's -10. Yeah. And then Frau Ziegler says, wann reisen Sie nach Spanien? Ende Dezember, which is then, of course, when are you traveling to Spain, or when do you travel to Spain? End of December. Frau Berg says, nein, wir reisen erst im Januar. Oh, wir reisen im Januar. Es kostet nicht so viel. No, we're traveling in January. It doesn't cost as much, or even the near future, it won't cost as much, because she already mentioned a future time. So you could actually put that into the future as well. It won't cost as much, whichever. Yeah. Okay, so now let's get to our numbers. We already did, we have the cardinal numbers and the ordinal numbers. So cardinal numbers are regular numbers. That's what we have here, cardinal. So that's just normal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cardinal numbers. So let's go through these, and then you don't have to memorize them all where you can like count and rattle them off. It's of course good. It's great if you can rattle them all off and count, but if you're translating, you don't necessarily have to know how to do that. These are all, these numbers are all just words that you can find in the dictionary. So if you forget one or you don't recognize it, then just look it up and it's fine. But it's really useful to have them in your active vocabulary, so that you don't have to spend time looking up a word that is that you could have memorized because they come up so often, right? So it's good to just get these at least in your passive vocabulary, even if you don't feel like you can count. So I will say the number, and then I'll leave a space for you to say the number after me. It'll be like in class when I say, repeat after me, right? So let me get over here. Yeah. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. It could also just be 100 or 100. And then we have 1000, eine Million, eine Milliarde, and eine Billion. So this is actually a false friend situation, a false cognate situation where eine Million is as you would expect, right? But then eine Milliarde means a billion, but then you get eine Billion, which means a trillion. So billion doesn't mean billion. Billion means trillion, and Milliarde means billion. So this is one of those pitfalls that could happen in translating, is that you just see billion, and then you think, oh, obviously that means billion. Like I don't even have to look that up. But it doesn't, it means trillion. And then Milliarde looks different enough that you'd probably look it up. But yeah, it's important to note those could be a problem if you've never seen that before. So let's go through these again, see if we can get them a little bit memorized. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's the first 12. And then from 13 to 19, we have a construction where you add the number 3 and then you put 10. So it's like saying 310. 13, 310, and you end with 13, which is actually 13, right? 14, 14, so 410, 14. 510, 15, 15, 15. 16, you do lose the S there, so slightly irregular. And then 7 plus 10 is 17, so you lose that EN syllable, and then you end up with 17. 18, 8, 10, 18. And then 9, 10, 9 plus 10, of course, is 19. 10 and 10, it's almost the same in English, right? Yeah. So you could, for example, do these math problems where you say that 8 plus 10 ist 18. So it sounds 8 plus 10 is 18. 5 plus 10 is 15, etc. Yeah. Okay, so then let's go over the tens again. So we have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. And then you'll notice they all have the ZIG ending, and that's the equivalent of the TY in English, 20, 30, 40, TY. And then except for the 30 has the SZ instead. And then with the pronunciation here, the IG at the end, a lot of dialects, especially the North and the Standard Hochdeutsch, will have the softened G sound. So 20. But in the Southern dialects, it'll sound more like 20 with a K sound at the end. So they are both correct, and you will hear both depending on who you're talking to. But I say 20. I do soft G because I'm a Northerner. Okay, so ich bin 33 Jahre alt. The question is, of course, wie alt bist du? Wie alt bist du? How old are you? Ich bin 33 Jahre alt. So you can see how these are formed, right? 3 and 30. 33 is how you make 33. And that's the pattern for all of those. So, wie alt bist du? Ich bin 33 Jahre alt. So maybe you'll see your age come up here and you can note down your own age. This one is, got to start out with 17 for the undergrads. I'm assuming none of you are 17 in graduate school, but you never know. If you're a 17-year-old prodigy in graduate school, I'd be very impressed. Okay, so let's do these. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So if you're in your 20s, your age is already written out here. But then if you want to go like between 30 and 40, you start with the pattern 31, and then you take that same pattern and add it on. So you could say 32, 33, 34. And then say, for example, you wanted the 50s, you would go 51, 52, and the same pattern all the way down. So you can memorize your current age if you like. And then we have some bigger numbers again. There's a couple of new things in here that weren't on the previous slide. So you have 40, 50, all those. And then there's 100, could be 100 or just 100. And then how do you make 101? That's 101, you just add on the eins. 102, you just add those on, right? And we got 1,000, 100,000, same way as in English, 100,000. And then the same, yeah, 1,000,000, 2, it's actually feminine. So you say like 1,000,000, 1,000,000. And then same with Milliarde, so feminine. Okay, so let's do some years. That's always a good way to practice your numbers. So, in welchem Jahr bist du geboren? Ich bin 33 Jahre alt. Ich bin im Jahr 1986 geboren. 1986. So it's all written as one word. In English, we would have them separate words, but in German, they just love compound nouns. They're everywhere. So it's all written as one word, but technically it's not more letters than the English equivalent. If you were to write out 19, we don't say the 100 part. 1986. It's a lot of letters, right? But in German, you have to say that 100, or else it sounds unfinished. So there's 19, and then 100, 1900, and then 6 und 80, 6 and 80. 1986. I was born in the year 1986. So let's practice some years. If you want to do just 1900, it's 1900. We do actually say the word 100 in that case in English, but normally for the rest of them we wouldn't. So 1910, in English we would say 1910, but in German it's 1910. 1910. 1914, so you say the same thing again, 1900, and then 14, right? 1914. 1933. You'll probably notice why I chose a lot of these years. When you're in German studies, there are certain years you say more often than other years. So it's good to practice those enough to be able to spit them out without hesitating, right? 1933. 1945. 1945. Yeah, so, if it's a certain year that you come across all the time, it's just going to start coming out super quick because you basically memorize. You don't have to construct it from scratch every time. You just memorize that year, right? 1989, 2000, 2001, 2010, 2019, 2020. Yeah, there we are, 2020. Year that will go down in history, along with other years that went down in history. Okay, so die Zahlen, here we have these again. I encourage you to count to yourself whenever you can. Count to yourself in the shower. Count to yourself when you're driving. Count to yourself to practice the numbers and get them in your head. Okay, so Ordinalzahlen. We just did all of those cardinal numbers. Those were regular numbers. But now we're going to do ordinal numbers. These are the alternative numbers that we use to talk about dates and things. So, heute ist der 7. Juli, which would be in English. Today is the 7th of July, or July 7th. Morgen ist der 8. Juli. Tomorrow is 8th of July, or July 8th. So, we have an ending on there, and some of these are irregular and some are regular. So let's just go through these and we'll notice what's going on. So, der erste is the first, right? So, der erste, der zweite, der dritte, der vierte, der fünfte, der sechste, der siebte, der achte, der neunte, der zehnte, der elfte, der zwölfte. So all of these, you see the default is to add the TE to the end, except for the irregulars, der erste, der dritte, der siebte. These just have all sorts of changes when you go from eins to erste or drei to dritte. And then siebte is only slightly irregular. You lose that syllable. It's not siebente, but siebte. Actually, it used to be der siebente. So if you read a text from like the 19th century or earlier, you may see siebente instead of siebte. But nowadays it's siebte. And then all these, we're just adding the T to the end. And that goes for all of the 13 to 19. These are super simple. All you do is add the T. So, der 13., der 14., der 15., der 16., der 17., der 18., der 19. And then what's going to happen with the 20 and above is that it's always going to have that same suffix, ig, so it's a little easier to pronounce if you have an STE than just the T. So above all of those, it's going to be the STE suffix. So, der 20., der 21., der 22., der 23., der 30., der 40., der 50., der 60., der 70., der 80., der 90., and der 100ste. Der 100ste, yeah. So those will indicate, see all these periods right here indicate that they are actually with the suffixes. The period, when you write it down with just the numerals, that period is the equivalent of the suffix. Okay, so here we have them again, and we have the patterns. We have erste, dritte, and siebte, irregular. Otherwise, we've got the TE endings and then the STE endings. So, irregular. Der erste, der dritte, der siebte. Regular up to 19, add the suffix T. Der zweite, der vierte, der zehnte, der zwölfte, der 19. And then for 20 and above, it's always going to be the STE ending. Der 20., der 21., der 30., der 100., der 1000. Okay, so we need to know the months if we're going to use these ordinal numbers to make some dates. So, Januar, Februar, März, April, Mai, Juni, Juli, August, September, October, November, December. So most of them look very similar to English, some of them identical, some a little bit strange, but definitely recognizable, right? Okay, so now let's do some dates. Interestingly, you may have encountered this before, but Americans do month, day, year, right? So we would say for January 30th, 2020 would be January is 1, the first month, and then the 30th would be the day, month, day, year. The German format is day, month, year from the smallest unit, then the next largest unit, then the next largest unit, which makes more sense. So that would actually be the 30th of January 2020. So it's the same date. The reason that it's more intuitive in German, I think, is because it's actually the way you say it. Der 30. Januar, it's like saying the 30th of January. And so we would say January 30th is sort of the default way to do it. It comes from the way that we pronounce it, right? So January 30th, 2020, that's how you say it. And then in German, you say der 30. Januar, der 30. Januar. So it's just the order that it's said. So let's look at some interesting dates. So November 9th, right? In the American format, we would say 11/9, the 11th month, and then the 9th day, 11/9. But the German would be the 9th of November, der 9. November. And you could also say der 9.11., the 9th of the 11th. And so you can replace November with the actual 11 standing for November, right? The 9th, 11th, the 11th, 9th. I don't think there's an equivalent in English for that, right? So der 9.11. or der 9. November. It's interesting. It's backwards. So let's look at September 11th, which is the inversion of that. And the American format is 9/11. And then the German format is 11/9, der 11. September, der 11.9., right? So if you say 9/11, that sounds like November 9th to a German. It's this one. 9/11 sounds like November 9th to a German. And it's interesting because November 9th is the day that the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. So to Germans, November 9th is a historical day, right? And so it's interesting that you can the inversion of these ends up being two very different historical events. Yeah, so just watch out for those. Okay, so we've got the ordinals as the summary from your textbook. We have der erste, der dritte, der siebte, der 19., all of these. They will get different endings depending on what if what follows is masculine, feminine, neuter. The dates are always going to be masculine, der erste, but then, you could say like the first whatever, it could be something feminine, right? So it will change, der, die, das, and then this ending will change based on the gender of whatever's coming after it, but it's gonna be a while till we do adjective endings, so don't worry right now. Basically, these things are just showing that it could be a different ending. But just memorize the masculine ones for now. So then we have the dates, right? Der 3. Oktober, and then this period here is indicating that it's an ordinal number, not just a regular number. Yeah. Okay, so let's go through some dates. Wann ist Weihnachten? When is Christmas? Wann ist Weihnachten? Weihnachten ist der 25. Dezember. Christmas is the 25th of December. In Deutschland ist Weihnachten der 25. und der 26. Dezember. In Germany, Christmas is the 25th and the 26th of December. Germans like to make as many holidays as long as possible. So those are the ordinal numbers. So we're going to have some exercises to wrap up this 2.5 unit, and then we will have the end of chapter homework for Kapitel 2. So do these right away, and then after you're done with those, you can move on to Kapitel 3 and watch those videos in the playlist for chapter 3. And then I'll see you on Zoom at our next meeting at 2:45, Monday through Thursday, 2:45 to 3:50 p.m. Viel Glück, und bis dann, I'll show you these real quick, some advice about using the dictionary. And then let's look at these. Heute ist der 7. Juli, so you just translate these and pay attention to those ordinal numbers. And then you can also practice writing out the numbers. They're written out in German here, obviously, and then you just write them as numerals to prove that you understand them. And then these are actually mostly important dates in German history as well, so the same ones. And then, yeah, write out these dates in the German format. It's always fun. And then we come to the end of chapter exercises from your textbook, and they always start out with a Grundwortschatz, which is just your basic vocabulary. And so this will be good to, as a starting point, to just look at these words and get used to some of these words, and then move on to the practice sentences, Übungssätze, practice sentences. And then these ones are going to be a lot more complicated than the ones I was giving you. So these are pretty basic sentences, right? But then they're going to get a little more complicated when you get to these ones. So try not to get discouraged if they seem impossibly complicated. Just work through it, do the best you can, and they will feel more and more doable as we continue through the term. Yeah. So these are glossed as well. So there's glosses down at the bottom, but of course you're probably going to have to look up a ton of words as well. So have your dictionary ready to go, and hopefully you can get through these. And there's more of that. And then there are several texts. So there's quite a lot of text at the end of every chapter. So do as much as you have time for. If it's really too overwhelming, then don't worry if you don't get to the end of every single text to translate. Just translate as much as you possibly can. And obviously, the more you translate, the more practice you're going to get and the better you're going to get. So, but I understand, like, it takes a long time. So just do as much as you can without overwhelming yourself. Yeah. So, das ist alles. I think that is all for now. I will see you on Zoom during the next meeting. And vielen Dank. Auf Wiedersehen. Bis bald. Tschüss.